Hey, Hippo.
Oh, what is it?
Shh! I'm a prince now. I've come to tell you a story about time.
Well, it's about time.
Silence! It all started when it snowed the other day. It's fucking cold. I don't like it. This calls for a game about heat. I needed to think of heat to boost my morale, because starting a fire was too boring, so I went to the only place I could think of. My video games. Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time. Well, it's got sand, and deserts. I feel warmer already. Well, this'll do. Merry Christmas. Hang on a minute, there's something on the back of this game case. Let me just scrape that off of there. It looks like a dagger of some kind, some sort of knife. Wow.
That is the letter opener of time.
What?
That letter opener was promised to me. Give it here.
No.
Oh, please.
No! Piss off, sir! It's mine now. Shiny and stabby. That's my name, when they say it. Weird. Can't get it open.
Legends say the letter opener of time can open more than letters. Perhaps the case will yield.
What a weird thing to say. What? Oh my god! Ooh, jeez! Ooh!
You have reached the sands of time!
What does the sand do? The sands of time were kinda lame. The granules got in between my toes and up in my ear canal, which sucked. But what didn't suck was the game. You play as this Prince of Persia, who in his quest for glory in battle, stole a magical time dagger from an ancient tomb that can turn back time a few seconds if you press the button. It's a really neat game mechanic because it allows you to retry difficult sections immediately, instead of having to go back to a checkpoint. Man, what I wouldn't give for a dagger of time in Dark Souls 2. The funny thing is, even though this redo function would alleviate cheap moments like that, in Prince of Persia itself, there aren't any cheap moments to alleviate. Nothing is unfair or unreasonable. Platforms that fall have a very clear visual and audible cue. Traps and mechanics are very rhythmic and predictable. Enemies have long and obvious wind-up animations before attacks. But if you do manage to mess up, you can try again, which makes the difficulty conform to the player's skill level in a sense. If you're good at the game, you won't need to rewind time so much, and can have fun being a badass and dodging everything. And if you're not very good, you have plenty of tries to get it right, as long as you kill enemies by stealing the sand within them when you're doing a fight. So it accommodates players of low and high skill level without needing to have difficulty settings, and I think that's very slick. Of course, it's always in your best interest to rewind time as little as possible anyway. You never know when the next checkpoint is or how many battles you'll be in before you get to one. And you could also use your dagger's power orbs to freeze enemies in time and do other special moves, which you may want to do instead of rewinding time, and that can come in really handy in some of the larger fights. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So we were playing this game, and we got the Dagger of Time, and then there was this cutscene showing the prince traveling across the desert to the palace of Farah. I think we were there to give him a gift of some animals and the sands of time or something, but the cutscene dialogue audio was really quiet in comparison to everything else. I couldn't really make out what they were saying. Anyway, the prince sticks the prick into the hourglass figure, and everyone dies! Except the prince, the old man, and the love interest. The sand turns people into time zombies, which are interesting because they can't die, obviously, but it's due to time shenanigans instead of some dumb undeath, magic, or disease. After you kill them, they rewind time to before they died, just like you do. And in order to stop them for good, you have to steal the time sands from within them using your dagger. And it looks sick as fuck, because the camera keeps whooshing around to get the dynamic shot. Very cool. I wonder who directed this game. Then, while I was playing, I got a heart attack and died tragically. Hang on, that didn't happen. May I try again?
Sure?
Right. It all started when it snowed that other day.
Hey, wait, you can't do the whole thing over again.
What?
Just start from before you messed up.
But I didn't save my progress, I forgot where I was.
Well, I remember. You were talking about dynamic camera angles.
Oh yeah. Shall I start the story from here then, the next time we're interrupted?
What in the fuck are you talking about?
Right, I'll start the story from here next time. The combat's great. The prince has very fluid and distinctive battle animations that out him as a dex build for sure. Being surrounded by sand zombies and pressing the attack button really fast and the directional stick makes him backflip and cartwheel and jump kick between them all at the drop of a hat. You really feel like a skilled warrior fighting impossible odds. The enemies give you enough of a wide berth that this constant switching between targets and attacking like a maniac is effective, but you never know when one or more of them will decide enough is enough and slice you into pate before you can get away. It's moments like this that come close to being cheap, but as long as you don't overextend and make liberal use of the block function, you should never really have a problem. And that's the real key to combat in this game: blocking and positioning. If you let the enemy surround you, sometimes all the rewinds in the world won't help you survive. You need to have an eye out for open spaces, keep note of wind-up animations for attacks, and lead enemies around so that you can take them out one by one or two by two. Patience is a virtue here. Despite how badass it looks to be constantly on the attack with your flips and spins, holding back when appropriate, going on the defensive, and thinking rationally about the situation are what win you the battles without taking a hit. I got very engrossed in the combat system after I realized how very rewarding it was to actually treat every encounter like it mattered, and not to rely so much on the ability to undo mistakes. After all, the best way to undo a mistake is to prevent it from happening in the first place. That's also a time-traveling lesson. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is also a puzzle platformer. You got all sorts. Bridges, ladders, pillars, flagpoles, ledges, stalactites, trees, thin walkways, levers, pressure plates, timed buttons, timed pulley levers, gates, doors, ropes, cracks, boxes, walls, floors, ups and downs. That's a lot of environmental transversationing. Apparently transversationing is a word. Who knew? The bulk of platforming is just finding the right path. Jumping is rarely a precision skill check. Everything is laid out like a grid, where jumping from one pole is exactly the right distance to the next pole. So it's not all that challenging to perform, except when there's a time limit, or when there are bats flying all around trying to knock you off. Being on somewhat of a grid means there's less wrong moves you can make, which is good for things like pillars and stalactites, where you can only jump off them in 4 directions, so it's easy to tell when you're facing the right way. It's kinda like how Uncharted and Assassin's Creed platforming sections work, where it's linear and you really just need to hold the right direction to win. Prince of Persia obviously predates these games and likely influenced them, but they didn't do a very good job of copying Prince of Persia's complexity in level design that made it actually fun. The puzzles in this game, platforming or otherwise, are some of the most intricate, brain-teasing, and demanding of your observational skills that you'll find on the PS2, I can promise you that. The game is structured like this: you do a puzzle platforming, kill some sand zombies, relax, drink some water, have a vision, and repeat. The water is how you replenish your health, which is pretty appropriate because you're in a hot Arabian climate, and sand is symbolic of dryness, and that you got sandy people who attack you, and you're hurt, and your health goes down, and then you drink because you're really thirsty. It's always super dramatic too. The camera swoops in to get a tasty close-up. Oh, I feel thirsty right now. The visions are the save points and appear after every combat encounter. Every time you die, the prince will say something stupid like, "Oh wait, that didn't happen," and then begin the story again from the last save point. Like he couldn't just start from the moment before he messed up. What a dumbass. Can you imagine somebody actually telling a story like that in real life? Guy must have a brain the size of a gold bowl fish. The visions are cool. They show a little bit of the future gameplay, which is a convenient way to clue the players into what's coming up next and show specific actions that may not be apparent to try. In a way, this is a pretty sneaky method to get around having to design every part of every level to be entirely intuitive. But it is him, the character, who is gaining this knowledge that he shouldn't be gaining anyway, so it kinda makes sense. And also, the future visions have story elements woven into them too, so it's not like that's the sole reason for their inclusion. And it rarely actually spoils anything that would have been more fun to figure out yourself, so overall, it's good. There's not actually a problem with that. I like it. After each vision, it's time to explore the new area. There are a fair few secrets and items to find that are very valuable, so exploring the area thoroughly is always a good idea. You might find a glowing sand nugget. I mean, what's the chances of that? Occasionally, there's a magic secret tunnel to a fountain of life. You take a big old sip, and then you go into the avatar state and black out, and then wake up in the entrance. But the entrance is gone? Oh! It's just like one of my English Harry Potters. You know? I love the quiet after a battle. Walking around and just taking it in and...
What?
Oh yeah, Farah. The lady. Farah is the only other person aside from Cunt Corona who is immune to the sands of time, because she has a very special pendant that is very special. She's kind of annoying at first, at least to the prince she is. The two of them bond due to being the only people alive and having to rely on each other to survive. She follows you around in certain areas and helps with puzzle solving and like pulling levers that you can't reach. She's also essential for some parts because she can fit through cracks in the wall because of how small she is. She also helps out in combat with her bow, although sometimes she can actually shoot you accidentally. The bitch, how do you like it? Oh, game over. I guess she's important.
This gate leads to the baths. Do you think you could find your way there?
Of course. Finding my way to the baths from here should be easy.
Good. I'll meet you there.
The prince and Farah bicker and argue, and the prince mutters under his breath about how annoying she is.
I'll meet you at the baths. She orders me around as if I were a servant.
But over the course of the game, they both come closer and realize that they love each other. And it's actually really cute and doesn't feel forced, and it's my favorite Disney movie. I ship them hardcore. I mean, there's no one else you can ship them with except maybe the sexy sand zombie dancing girls. Talk about having sand in your vagina. Finally, you get up to the hourglass and have a chance to end it all. But just like Lord of the Rings, you don't. In one of the visions earlier, the prince saw Farah being sneaky and doing something sneaky, and he thinks that means she's a sneaky person and she might trick you, so he doesn't do the obvious thing to do. And then he falls down into a dark pit. Whoa, man. You fucked up big time. Farah talks about her childhood stories of a secret place she could run and hide to, and it just so happens to be real. Or is it? And then you have a weird dream sequence where you have a bath with her. Ay, Chihuahua. Look at that sexual imagery. You awake to find that Farah has taken your dagger in order to seal the sands of time herself. Hoo boy. That's why you don't have sex, kids. You'll lose your dagger. Your dagger is your penis. You then have to climb back up the tower without your dagger, without any means of killing the sand zombies. This is where the game should change drastically, but in reality, you just run into a room and do a puzzle to get a new sword that can inexplicably permanently kill the sand zombies without the use of a dagger, which kinda makes the dagger seem less important. I don't know how this works. Why is this sword here? It's still awesome though. The thing hits like a fucking truck! Throughout the game, you've been acquiring more and more powerful swords, and this last one really takes it to the next level. You cut through the largest enemies like butter. Like butter, I said. The inability to rewind time though, That really hurts. Now you have to rely on your skills you've been honing throughout the whole game. If you mess up and fall, you have no extra tries. You have to get it right, first time, every time, or you're going all the way back. It was really annoying because Hippo was trying to help me by telling me to jump in a specific place, but I didn't believe him because I thought he was being a sneaky guy doing a sneaky thing, telling me sneaky tricks, and then I fell because I didn't listen to him. That's like basically what happened in the game. The parallels, they're just so funny and coincidental. Eventually you find Farah again, barely surviving against an onslaught of big beefy boys. After dispatching them, Farah is about to fall! The prince grabs the dagger to try and save her, but the blood comes out of his hand instead. And then she realizes it's better if she sacrifices herself so that he can continue on, and... oh... that's a real emotional moment. I really cried really hard, really fast. Then I put the dagger in the thing and rewound time to before this all happened, before even the intro cutscene. And it's like the story the prince has been telling the entire time was to Farah in the past. And now the narrator is the player. It's like a loopy time loop. Then the old wizard man comes in and it's time for the ultimate showdown. And he's a fucking pushover. Actually, kind of a letdown. The most extreme battle was probably on the elevator leading up to the hourglass the first time we went up there, and that was only really difficult because it was an endurance test and I also had to protect Farah from being killed, and I had to lead the enemies away, but then they teleport, they teleport. And then we got to the final boss, and you just block his attacks and then hit him a few times. It's easy. Well, whatever, I win. Huh. It's stuck.
Legends say the letter opener of time can open more than letters.
Hey, Hippo. Oh, what is it?
And that's what happened.
Whoa, that's just like what happened in the game.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
But wait, if these skits are mirroring the game, then that means...
It is I, Conqueror. Are you here to kill everybody who doesn't buy my pee?